You're listening to the Coaching Cast podcast with Susie and Lisa. We are super lucky to have this 7th season sponsored by our friend and YouTube's top breath coach, Mike Mayer from Take a Deep Breath. Mike is the first official sponsor of this podcast and specialises in reducing stress and anxiety through practical, fun and science-based breathing techniques. You can get started for free by clicking on the link in the show notes and downloading a free guided audio breathing exercise from Mike. Say goodbye to stress and hello to a more relaxed and chilled state of mind. And if you're interested in being a sponsor on this podcast, you can contact us by emailing hello@thecoachingcast.co.uk.
Hi, I'm Susie.
And I'm Lisa, and this is the Coaching Cast. We are the no-nonsense podcast, chatting about the things impacting you at work right now, helping you to survive and thrive in today's ever-changing workplace.
We discuss different topics each episode, sharing our ideas, hints and top tips from our experiences of working in the corporate world, running our own businesses and also being qualified coaches. We also try to have a few laughs along the way too, because taking yourself too seriously, well, it's just boring. We hope you enjoy listening. In today's episode, we're welcoming Sam Flynn and talking to her about the topic of digital wellbeing. So stay with us and enjoy. So before we get chatting to Sam, Lisa, how have you been?
I have had a bit of an adult meltdown this morning, if I'm being honest.
Oh no.
I know it's not like me. It's quite out of character, but let's just say, in my opinion, I've had a rather mortifying moment in this morning's yoga class, which is where I was earlier today, because I had what I classify as a slight adult tantrum. And there's nothing more embarrassing, I think, than being an adult who then demonstrates some form of immature, childlike regression and behaves badly, which is what I did. So I've not had the best start of the day.
Oh.
I can laugh about it now. I didn't laugh in the class at the time. I was thinking I was going to have a full-on like crying moment in the class, which is really embarrassing. Simply because I got frustrated with the teacher, and
oh no.
I got frustrated with the teacher because I personally felt we weren't warmed up enough, and she wanted to move into some series of very complex moves, which were more complex than what I'm capable of at this stage. Not completely incapable of yoga. I've been doing it for a while now. But anyway, and so she came over to me while the rest of the class were, I would like to say, also struggling with the sequence that she'd shared. And she just kept trying to show it to me. And I was like, I can't do it. And I could just feel myself losing it. I was like, my bottom lip's wobbling. I think I'm going to cry. Because it was a combination of, I can't do it. I want to be able to do it. I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated at you for pushing us too far, too soon in this class. And I ended up having a bit of a sulk to the point where I just nearly didn't carry on. I thought I was going to walk out, which I'm glad I didn't, because that would have been the worst if I just like stormed off in some sort of fit of, I can't do this, so I'm just leaving. Oh God. So very embarrassing. But what is it about having those moments as an adult that is just so mortifying?
Well, we all have moments where we're just like, do you know what, I'm just over it for whatever reason, and sometimes it comes out, and you know, it is what it is. That's life.
Oh God.
We can't all be living our best lives all the time.
No, clearly not. I don't think I've ever done it so publicly. I can't remember the last time I had a moment like that. I mean, I've got close friends who I've developed from working with them, actually, who would argue that they've experienced this when it's a bit for me where it's a computer says no. It's just no, it can't do that. And I become very obstructive because I can't do it, or I just don't agree with it. Actually, it doesn't happen very often, but I have had moments, and I literally think I'm gonna cry, because I generally cry when I'm frustrated. Aww. So yeah, it was not great, and I get terrible guilt as well about it afterwards. So I sort of progressed with the rest of the class. Luckily, the instructor got the sense that I was really not enjoying it, and so she did change the flow. Too right, love, because it wasn't working. Yeah, but I did apologize for it at the end. I was like, sorry about today. I was not in the right headspace, because I wasn't. I don't think I was like, I'm not in the right headspace. And she sort of went, that's fine. She was very sweet, actually. She was like, that's totally fine. I could see that you were wrestling with something at the back there. I was thinking, yeah, you're yoga teaching, but never mind.
I didn't give you some feedback.
I didn't say that. I was like, oh, well, yeah, I have to admit, I was desperate to kind of go, look, love, I think you moved things along far too quickly before I was ready. I wasn't in the right flow in my brain, neither was my body, because we'd barely started, and already you want me to do some sort of like major strength pose that I've never done before. Anyway, I didn't go down that. I was trying to, regain some kind of, what's the word? I don't know where I'm going with this now, but I was trying to regain some sort of, good place. And so I thought, just stick with the route that you're on, which is, look, you're apologizing. You can't now apologize and then be a martyr about it. So yeah, I did apologize to her. I think her suggestion was, don't worry. We all have those days. You worked it out. You got through it. I think she said, go home and journal. I have to admit, I thought at that point I might actually get said journal and whack her over the head with it, but there we go.
Oh dear. So
yes, dear. That's where I was at this morning. There we go. Hey, look, like you said, some days you just have those moments.
Listen, we got to do it. Sometimes we've just got to turn around, walk out there, and take a deep breath, and get ourselves a double gin and move on. Yeah, quite.
I mean, it's a bit early in the day for that, but yeah. Maybe later, but yes. So we all have them, people.
We all have them. It's real life. It's
not all sunshine and rainbows over here. I know. I know I'm quite a generally positive and upbeat person, but not this morning. Anyone who would
we all have them days. Yeah,
so
it's totally normal.
Not great. Totally what about yourself? Have you had any crying fits or slight meltdowns?
Had any meltdowns?
Any adult tantrums?
No, I haven't had any adult tantrums. I've dealt with a lot of tantrums. So the 3-year-old is he's really good, but there's this concept called having a 3-nanger.
I've heard this. Yeah,
but like they become, he's becoming more and more assertive around what he likes, what he doesn't like, what his boundaries are, to the point where I'm like, can you go to the toilet? And he's just like, no. You're literally about to like wee yourself. Can you please just go to the toilet? He's like, no. I'm like, I know you need the look, because it's on his terms. He's like, and then like 2 weeks later, he'll be like, I'm going to go to the toilet. I'm like, yeah, great, okay. So like, there's been a lot of like outpourings of emotion and tantrums from the 3-year-old that I've been dealing with, but that's just general life. And what else have we got on? I've had my hair cut, so.
I was going to say, I thought your hair looked different. Have you had it? Yeah. Is it blonder as well, or am I just? Oh yeah, I thought you'd gone more blonde.
If you watch this podcast, you may have seen that I just always turn up with my hair up, either on the top of my head or scraped back onto the middle of my head in some form of bun. And that's because when I had my hair cut, so bad, for about 6 months. And it was just so bad. And I was like, I need to get my hair cut, which is one of those things I just never got around to doing because life happens. And I was like, no, I'm going to get my hair cut and I'm going to get it coloured. So I did last week, and it feels like, I feel loads better. It feels really good. And hence why it's not scraped up onto the top of my head today.
It looks fabulous. I thought it had gone blonder. I was thinking, am I seeing things? I'm sure you've gone more blonde.
Has she actually done her hair? That's like, am I seeing things?
I always think your hair looks great, but I was definitely thinking you've gone blonder.
I have, yeah. So anyway, I've had my haircut, and actually, do you know what? It was lovely. I enjoyed it. I even multitasked, so I had my laptop on my lap whilst it was getting done. That's like I was one of those like salon idiots that does that. But it was really nice. That's been the highlight of my week this week. Just got my haircut, which at this point in my life is actually a massive like indulgence, and I'm gonna take
totally.
it.
I love having my hair done. Although our guest Sam Flynn might have a word to say about you working on your laptop during your hairdressing appointment.
I know. She
Not
probably
able
is
to
gonna have a few
switch
words
off.
to say. Exactly. Yeah. So on that note, we should probably get Sam on so she can give me some tips about how I shouldn't be working in the hairdressers.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's bring Sam on.
In today's episode, we welcome Sam Flynn, digital wellbeing and social media coach, trainer, and speaker. During the pandemic, Sam became interested in the impact smartphones have on our well-being. With her curiosity spiked, she started to read more about this topic. Fast forward to today, and Sam now runs her own business, helping individuals and businesses manage their relationship with the digital world. Her career highlights include being invited to speak at Prince Harry's Foundation in Africa, opening a big social media conference to 600 people in Manchester, and delivering workshops worldwide to hundreds of people. Sam's favourite saying is, we pick up our phone because we fear we're missing out on something. But by picking up our phone, we're missing out on something. Sam, welcome to the Coaching Cast. And I have to say, I absolutely love that saying that you've got there.
Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it? Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I love it too. And it's always my own little personal reminder when I'm in the present that this is far more important than whatever's going on my phone.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a really, really good statement to kind of open up our conversation around this topic. So I know we started talking, a couple of months ago about getting you on the podcast and talking about this topic of around digital well-being, which Lisa and I actually came across kind of towards the end of last year, and the stars aligned, and there you were.
The universe spoke.
Absolutely. And we were like, we definitely need to get Sam on. So just talk to us and our listeners about what is digital well-being? How would you even describe it?
Yeah, so digital wellbeing kind of encompasses our relationship with the digital world and the impact it has on our lives in the shortest way possible. So obviously the digital world is a huge part of all our lives. We can't avoid it, can we? And it's not about avoiding it. And I think that's really important to point out as well. This isn't about saying, chuck your smartphone in the bin, cancel all your social media accounts, go off grid. It's nothing like that at all. It's about embracing the digital world in a way that it positively impacts our life rather than negatively impacts our life, and acknowledging that there are ways, unfortunately, in which it can be negative, as with anything good in life, such as chocolate cake or wine or whatever else your vice is. It has its merits, but it also, if you have too much of it, it definitely has its downfalls as well. So yeah, it really encompasses making sure you have a positive relationship with the digital world.
Yeah, so some of those healthy habits with your kind of digital devices. I can really relate to this because there are times where I definitely just find myself scrolling on my phone.
Yeah, you're not alone. Everyone does.
And I'm just kind of like, what am I doing? And I don't even know I'm doing it sometimes. I have to actually like really catch myself and become conscious that I'm doing it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes there is a purpose, but a lot of the time it's because I've gone on to look at something or do something, because everything's on your phone nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I get distracted, and then the next minute I'm just scrolling Instagram for no real reason or purpose. And I can see how you can start to create some unhealthy habits and relationship with some of your digital devices and obviously the content that's on there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're definitely 100% not alone in that.
Okay.
I think most people who have any form of social media app on their phone will completely relate. When I've discussed this with so many people now, and I've only met a very, very small proportion of people who say, I'm not bothered about any of that social media stuff. I don't go on it, or I've got it on my phone, but I never look at it. The majority of us easily get sucked in, because, and it's not really actually to do with us and our behaviors. It's actually that's how they're designed. They're designed to suck us in. They're designed to keep us on there as well, because that's how they generate more income. The longer we spend scrolling, the more they learn about us. And that means that they can deliver ads to us that are highly targeted. We're more likely to click on those ads, and therefore they make more money. So, you know, they've had to design them that way to keep them as a really successful business model. So yeah, you're not alone. You know, if you think about it, I remember joining Facebook about 19 years ago now, which just is crazy, because we kind of see social media as quite a new thing, don't we? But I mean, 19 years ago, I joined Facebook, and back then there was no smartphones even then. So you logged in on your computer and you'd look, you know, you'd see the updates of your friends, and then it'd go to page 2. So you'd go to page 2 and then you'd catch up to the last point you were on there, and you go, all right, I'm done now. And you'd log off. And at that point, it was only limited who could actually join. So there was only a few people I was friends with anyway. So you'd maybe spend like a couple of minutes a day and you'd be caught up. Whereas now, obviously, it is the infinite scroll. So there's no end point. It doesn't go to you, oh, you've done page 1. Do you want to move on to page 2? It just never ends. They're delivering content to us from people we're not even friends with, or accounts we've chosen to follow. So it's never ending content. We never get to a point where we've caught up from the last time we were on there. So they've completely designed them to suck us in. And I think you're right when you say it's bringing back that consciousness and going, oh, hang on a second, what am I doing? You know, we've got to unfortunately take control, because the apps aren't going to change, sadly.
I think that's so true of Instagram Reels. Reels is the danger trap for me. My husband more so, I might add. So
that's interesting.
He is a nightmare for sitting looking at reel after reel after reel. He scrolls through them and then annoyingly sending me every single one he thinks is funny.
Oh,
and then I literally get inundated in my inbox on Instagram with about 9 or 10 reels that he thinks is hilarious, and I think I ain't got time for that. I haven't got time to sit and check every single one of those to see. I was like, I'm too busy. He's always like, have you looked at those reels I sent? I'm like, no, I haven't. I'm busy. I've got stuff to do. But yeah, the reel scrolling I find harder. And I know when I can't relax or sleep at night, particularly, that's a danger time for me and my husband as well, because it's I'll just have a look at this. Like an hour later, I'm thinking, well, we're still looking at these and I'm still not asleep. And actually, I find it does the opposite of relaxing. Stimulates. Yeah. So yeah,
it's so true.
So definitely we're trying to get into habits of I've actually got to the point now where actually I turn my phones over at night. So even though they're on, I just flip them. I sound like a drug dealer that I've got 2, but I do have 2. It's nothing untoward. It's a long story about trying to use your phone in South Africa and being abroad.
All right.
Yeah. But you literally, I have to flip them over so that I can't pick up on even light changes, because I find that too distracting. So yeah, but these are all things like behaviors that we've had to adopt or change, or habits to change since, as you pointed out, the whole social media world has just exploded.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. I mean, it's mad to think, isn't it? 20 years ago, if someone said, oh, you'll be taking this device to your bed every night and you won't want to be more than a meter away from it, we'd be like, shut up, that's not going to happen. But it is so true. And sleep, actually, in talking about digital well-being, sleep's a massive factor, because so many people's sleep is impacted by their smartphone. For exactly what you said, they get in bed, I'll just have a last scroll before I go to sleep. That last scroll is essentially filling your eyeballs with light, saying it's daytime, it's not nighttime, it's switching on all the parts of your brain that kind of come to life, and you're consuming content, so you're swamping your brain with stuff to try and process and compute. And then we put our phone down after we've finally gone, oh my God, what am I doing? I've scrolled for 2 hours instead of going to sleep. Put our phone down, and like you say, we're like laid there like, I'm wide awake, I can't get to sleep. I tell you what I'll do, because I can't get to sleep, I'll pick up my phone again. Because we struggle now with not doing anything, don't we? We're so used to having that device with us all the time.
And I'm type 1 diabetic, and I've got an app on my phone which talks to the sensor that sits on my arm. Okay.
Right. Okay.
And that it's alarmed during these podcast recordings many a time.
It could still alarm today.
It could still alarm. We've still got time. So I have to, and it carries on alarming until you pick it up and you scan. Right. So the purpose of it is obviously to kind of help you and create action for yourself. But I then am on my phone, so I've then got to scan. I put it back down, and then I'll be like, oh, I've got an email, and then I get distracted, and then I'm like, oh, I'll just go on Instagram, and then that takes up like 10 minutes of my life. I put it back down, and then I don't know, a couple of hours later, it might alarm again, and then I'm off again, and I'm in that same cycle. And it's really, I've become really mindful that my like, I was like, should I take that off? I'm not gonna, because I get it's got a higher objective, it's actually got and a higher purpose.
Exactly.
I get that. But actually, like, that being on my phone drives then me to do other things on my phone, and then I'm on my phone a lot. And I'm also quite conscious of that around my son, because he's quite young.
Yeah.
And so I've started to have to say, like, I'm just checking my blood sugar on my phone. Like, I've labeled it, and I don't know if that's just me because I'm projecting it. I don't know, but it drives me to do other things. And I think since we started initially talking about this episode, maybe I've just subconsciously became more mindful about how much time I'm spending on my phone. No,
it does. It makes a difference actually when you just have that self-awareness and start noticing, and adapting then more positive behaviors. Like, absolutely, there's no way you should take that up off your phone. That's a great example of how amazing the digital world is, and the benefits it has to our well-being, not just the negative impact, but actually telling yourself, oh, there's my alarm going off, I'm going to scan it, and then I'm putting my phone directly down. I'm not looking at anything else on my phone. And having that conversation in your head every single time will get you to the point where you will do it without thinking. It'll be like, right, scan, put it down, done. Because it's breaking all those habits that we've picked up over many, many years, due to how mobile our smartphones are, the fact that they are literally always with us, and there's always something to flash up and tell us, pick me up, pick me up, pick me up. So we do have to take control ourselves and be like, right, I'm going to change my behavior. And it's so true. I've spoken to so many people who've said just having a conversation with you has really reduced my smartphone use. And it's because suddenly that awareness has gone up and they've started thinking about it rather than being completely unconscious about their use.
Yeah. So on that note then, so this kind of concept, this topic of digital well-being, and you touched upon it there, why does it matter? So, why is it important, I think, for both individuals, which we've kind of touched upon in some of our conversation there, but also workplaces, businesses, to consider this as well? Because I reflect around, certainly when I was working in an organization, we had a lot of digital solutions, a lot of tech involved in that workplace, Slack channels, Teams and Zoom, email on phone, video conference calling, WhatsApps, that's just 6 just there. So you've kind of got this responsibility for yourself around your digital well-being as an individual. But I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's also this kind of responsibility somewhere in the workplace as well around being mindful of digital well-being for those that you work with. So why does it matter?
I mean, like you say, the digital tools now in the workplace, most workplaces would really struggle to strip them all away and go back to kind of a non-digital world. And again, we have to embrace that that's great. And a lot of these tools really do help with comms and with productivity. So the other side, though, is often not looked at in businesses. They'll look at, oh yeah, this tool will do this for us and that tool will do that for us. And it's exactly what you said. It can become kind of digital overwhelm for team members because, I was telling someone the other day, I was doing a project for a company. And while I was doing it, they said, oh, can you be on our Teams chat with us while you're working through it? And I just couldn't get it done because constant messages coming through this Teams chat all the time. And so while we look at things like that and go, it's amazing that everyone can work from home and they can all communicate with each other throughout the day as if they were sat in the same room. Brilliant. The downside is they're not getting anything done because these messages are pinging up all the time. So productivity is actually a really important factor in this. If we think about stripping away the digital world, if people were just sat at their desk working away or whatever their workspace is, and they weren't being interrupted all the time by these notifications. You've had an email, this person's on chat, you've got a WhatsApp, whatever other communication tools being used, you would probably get so much more done. So we do have to look at it on a productivity level. How much time is being lost to the digital world? Focus and attention. So the digital world has been shown to really negatively impact our ability to focus and pay attention. And of course, a massive part of our productivity is being able to focus and pay attention. So it's been shown now the average office worker can only focus on task for 3 minutes, and then their attention has gone elsewhere. And actually, they're starting to think that that's probably too much now. It's probably even less since they did that research. Because actually, if we think about our own digital use, we're now being trained, like you said about Instagram Reels, to pick up small little snippets of information all the time. And that's actually retraining our brains. It's training our brains that you don't need to focus for too long. It's fine. You just need to focus for a few seconds and then focus on a different thing and then focus on a different thing. So focus and attention is huge. And once we lose our focus from the task we're working on, it takes on average 27 minutes to pull that attention back to your task, to get back that full focus. So you can imagine if there's Teams chat, if there's emails coming up, if there's WhatsApps going on, you've got your work smartphone pinging at you, all of that is really negatively impacting our ability to focus and pay attention. It's taking us away from task. So that's another factor. Then we've got stress and burnout. The fact that we can't necessarily just leave the workplace and that's it. We have no access to anything.
Yeah.
Especially now working from home, because you don't even have to go, oh, it's 5 o'clock, I need to get my train or whatever else it might be. It's like, oh, it's 5 o'clock, but I'm just going to finish this little job I need to do. I'll just send off those emails and I'll just do this thing. And before you know it, you've done an extra couple of hours work. Or in the evening, if you've got a business smartphone, you hear it pinging, even if you've got it in a drawer or a cupboard, you hear it pinging, your brain's going straight to work. If you've got a manager who's sending out emails at 10, 11 o'clock at night, that's sending the message that, oh, that's what I have to do to get ahead. I need to be logging in the evening. That's what managers do. If I want to climb the ladder, I'm going to have to start logging in the evening. So all of this really massively contributes to burnout and stress, to lowered mental health, to, feeling like we constantly have to be plugged in. So yeah, it is definitely a massive problem in organizations, and one that not many of them are really addressing, because they're just looking straight to, this is great that we can have these chats going on when we're all working from home, or this is great that we can notified as soon as we've got an email. They see the positives and they're not necessarily looking at what is the overall impact of that.
Yeah, it's that always on mentality, isn't it? Which, I mean, I know with individuals I was engaging with during the whole of the pandemic period, I got a real sense that although there was an element of enjoyment of working from home, it gave a whole new sense of pressure. I think there was pressure externally because of the climate of what everyone was working in, because there were so many unknowns during the pandemic. People felt unsettled. There was so much, as I said, unknown uncertainty, that I think that created a lot of stress for people anyway. And because the work environment had just changed overnight so drastically for so many people, that intent, I suppose, to just keep going meant that I think the people I was working with, I just found that they were on a hamster wheel. And I was thinking, where are the breaks? Where are the stops? Why all of a sudden is it that your diary is now back-to-back meetings that start at 8 a.m, when they never did, and now they're going till 6 p.m? Where's that behavior come from? Because that's not how you were operating in the office. Because fundamentally it was practically impossible, clearly, because people were having to travel. But also it was that notion, if anything, of like, well, now I'm working from home, that means that I have the ability to work through. And I was thinking, but you weren't working through your lunch breaks before, or not forfeiting your walks outside, or the walk to the local Tesco to grab a sandwich if you felt like something different from the canteen. I was thinking, why are you suddenly changing that now? And there are still clients that I work with now who are in that space where they just there's no boundaries anymore. And I think that's quite a worrying consequence of everything being digital, everything being on all the time, that ability that if you choose to, or whether even you feel like you have to, you can just work all the time.
I completely agree.
It comes back to that whole having the consciousness, having, I think, discipline, and knowing what is right for you, what works, and putting the right boundaries in to just stop, whether that be because of, usage on your phone or working on your laptop. I admit, I know that there's an element of culture here, which is why it's interesting when you talk about the workplaces and is anyone really doing anything much about this. I have to admit, I don't see anything. I think there's a real sense of, I hear a lot from workplaces, we allow our people to do what they think is best. And I'm like, that's not the same thing.
That's not the same thing, no, especially when they're looking at like managers as role models and going, they're plugged in throughout their lunch break, so I need to be.
To your point, they're sending the email to me at 10 o'clock at night.
Exactly.
It's like,
that's what I need to do.
You can't say we allow our people to choose what's best for them and then at the same time don't address what is clearly unhealthy behaviours, because that's just going to create a culture where people feel that they're under pressure to do the same, even if they're being told they have a choice. So it's like,
100%.
It's really interesting because like I was just reflecting then on my email at the bottom of my email signature. So I am a solopreneur. I am, if I'm not working, it does not get done, unfortunately. I'm also a working mum. I technically work part-time. I think I probably work more than full-time sometimes, but anyway. But my working schedule is very flexible. It has to be, because that's just my life and how it works. But I have on the bottom of my email, I have sent this email at a time that suits me. There is no expectation for you to respond to this email, like, because that might not suit you. It's something along that kind of line anyway, because I am mindful that sometimes I am sending emails at 9-10 o'clock at night, because that's my time where I can get stuff done. And I also work best in the evening, interestingly. So actually that's probably where I am the most productive, and I have a lot of my ideas and things like that, and I kind of get a second wind come 8 p.m.
I am the opposite, so I applaud that.
Me too, Sam, me too.
So exactly. So if I was to send you an email when I am actually in my most productive time and you're not, say at 8 p.m, then, to bring kind of context to what we're talking about, you're probably thinking, oh God, I need to reply. But I'm trying to kind of create that boundary for other people by putting that on the bottom of my email, saying like, I just sent this at a time that suits me. There's no expectation for you to respond at this moment. And I think that's the type of stuff we're talking about here, isn't it? About businesses really thinking about how they communicate some of this and set some of those boundaries for their people.
100%. There's no reason to, in fact, one thing I always recommend to business leaders is, yes, you can write your emails at 10 o'clock, but don't send them till the next morning. Get them going out at 9 in the morning, so that your teams are seeing the email when they get in the morning and they see the time it was sent. It's 8:45, whatever, it's not 8:45 p.m. or 10 p.m. or 1 in the morning, that even some people I know who prefer to work in the evenings. That's fair enough. As I said, that is not me. I'm a definite like switch off, not working in the evenings, but I could easily get up at 5 in the morning and work. But even just little steps like that, just being that positive role model. And also, having the conversations of saying, okay, as a team, you guys are on lunch at this time, you guys are on lunch at this time, your system shuts down 1 till 2, you don't get access 1 till 2. This is what we recommend you do. Get outside for a walk, particularly as you say, working from home. Because the other problem with working from home, isn't it? It's like, oh, it's my lunch break, I will throw the hoover around, I'll put a wash on, I'll do, and actually you're as busy in your lunch break as you're on your working time. So just having those conversations and saying, this could be the impact of getting out for an hour, or putting if it's raining, put a yoga video on YouTube or something and do a bit of yoga, or whatever. Like, having those conversations as a manager, I do think is really important, and just really pushing that. It's shutdown time for you now, you've got an hour off. Go away from your desk space, get outdoors if you can, and then doing it yourself as a manager, because this doesn't just benefit lower levels, you know, below management, it benefits management too to step away. You know, leaders are some of the most stressed in their role, and they don't take that switch off time themselves. So, you know, being that role model and going, right, guys, I'm going on my lunch now, I'm heading to the gym for a class, you know, I'll be back online at 1 o'clock. Just using that kind of language makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Then, as you say, saying, oh, everyone can just decide what they want to do. If they want to work through, if that suits them, that's fine with us. You know, actually really positively pushing for it makes a massive difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Without a doubt. I think one of the best pieces of advice I ever got given as a very young manager was take time for yourself out of the day to do some thinking. Even if it's 30 minutes, you know, and actually block it in your diary and be disciplined enough to commit to that and not allow anyone to put anything in there. And it was only sometimes once a week, but it was a real get away from the desk, have a think, do some reflecting, be clear about what you're trying to achieve, think about how you and the team are working. Like, the more thinking you do, the better actually you will be, because you've got more perspective, you're being more you know, mindful of what's actually going on, rather than just being in the do all the time, because you can just get so lost. And I've been there many times, either as that individual leading a team and suddenly thinking, we're all just running along, I actually don't know if we're doing the right thing now. And then witnessing other managers doing it and thinking, you know, they're not aligned, or they're all going off in different directions, but I'm not even sure they're aware of it, because their heads are down so much and no one's really steering this. So I definitely think getting that time out is so important. And I still do it now. I mean, I'm in the same position as Susie. I'm a solopreneur. If anything, I do it more now than ever, because it's a constant trying to manage my well-being, because there is only me, and the pressure is even more, because, as Susie said, the buck stops with you. You do it all. You know, yes, I'm aspiring to build this business so I can employ lots of help, but we're not there yet. And that's fine. But, you know, I think you do therefore then even need to be more disciplined about looking after yourself and managing your well-being and taking those breaks. And that includes as well the digital side, because you literally are in control of it completely. There's no one else saying to you, you've got to work all the time right now, this time. You know, it is down to you. And I think sometimes you get that entrepreneur guilt, which I think I get, where I think, I've not done enough today, I need to do more, I should have been on the laptop more, like, you know, and then it really can escalate. And it's the same with how much time have I spent marketing myself. I know I use LinkedIn. I mean, that's a social media platform. Yes, it's a professional one, but it's still a social media platform.
Yeah, if you're just scrolling, looking what everyone else is saying.
Yes, I can be so guilty of scrolling through LinkedIn and just being overwhelmed by what I'm reading, and, you know, getting lost in horrendous comparison patterns, which are just so unhelpful. I get
that's exactly what I posted about this week.
Oh yes, good
comparisonitis.
Good one. Yeah, I've talked about comparing. I talk a lot about the things that I do. I'm trying to encourage other people to avoid. It's like, do as I say, not as I do. Probably
Absolutely.
It's not the best role model there. But you know, I am a work in progress. But that one, the comparison, more professionally, actually, I don't do it on Instagram. That I do on LinkedIn, constantly looking at what other people are doing and going, oh, they're busier than me, they're doing more cool things than I am, they're more successful than I am. You know, it's horrible. So I have to be really careful with that, to be like, if I start feeling like I'm going down that hole, I just have to step away from it and go, not today. It's not a place I want to be today. Tomorrow I'll be different of it. But today not. No thanks.
Oh, it is a really massive part of social media, that kind of comparison syndrome. I fully got sucked into that in the pandemic, and actually it really impacted my mental health, because this was before I did digital wellbeing, and I was a social media trainer, and you know, being a trainer and then having 3 young children at home with you every day. The youngest at the time was 18 months. You know, I couldn't deliver training to people and companies with an 18-month and a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old knocking around in the background. It just couldn't happen. And my husband was one of the lucky ones who got to leave the house every day and go to work because he's in construction. So it was literally all on me to do the childcare and try and keep my business going and deliver training when actually I couldn't deliver training. So squeezing it into the 1 hour a day that she napped, because annoyingly she'd gone down to 1 hour a day, or saying to them, I can do it. It will have to be 8 till 9 at night. And then they'd be like, oh no, we can't do that. It needs to be 2 in the afternoon or something, and turning down the business. So there was actually another social media trainer who lives not too far from me. He's childless, and he would post loads about, oh, this pandemic's been great for my business. I've got all this online training. I've got back-to-back training booked in. And every time I just feel like it's not fair. Yeah. It's so unfair. My situation is not the same as his. My business can't run like that. And, when you just get completely stuck, to the point where I actually just deleted all social media in the end, because I was like, I just need a month to not do that. And that's when my mental health improved. And that was one of the big triggers actually that got me into digital wellbeing. That the whole pandemic piece and the comparison that came from that, and how social media actually made me feel. It is a really tricky part of social media. And we do have to be aware of it, and we do have to acknowledge things like gratitude for what we do have, rather than jealousy for what others have. I think is a really important thing.
That's a massive one. Yeah
Makes a big difference. And just remembering they're always sharing the best bits, and not are you about to say they're only sharing the good side. They're not sharing like the awful bits, and they're not sharing, and they might not even be telling the truth, is the other thing.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because when I worked in an organization, there was like an internal social media channel. So, some people might be listening to this thinking I have social media myself personally, but also there might be stuff internally in an organization as well. And I remember sometimes some of the posts that were on that internal social media platform, and it would be like all the good stuff, like we got this listed, this created X amount of revenue, X amount of profit, like kind of look how amazing. And I get that we have to do that. We have to social proof, like our proposition, us, like I get it. I do it in my own business, like I get it. But also, we don't, in that channel, I always remember thinking, but you've not talked about like what challenges you've faced, how difficult it was. You haven't just gone from here to here, like linear. There's been like ups and downs in between. And actually like, let's just be real and authentic about it, which, like Lisa and I do not struggle with on this podcast. But, good. I think
tell the story. That's what I think. Tell the story. Tell the whole story.
And if people are looking at that externally from work, and also internally at work potentially as well, that is a lot, isn't it? To be constantly bombarded with this element of perfection. This element
doesn't
of
exist.
just the good all the time.
Yeah, absolutely,
totally.
And actually, I'm sure there was a cosmetics company, I can't think of their name, but I think it was last week or the week before, they put a post out saying like, oh, we're on the brink of collapse essentially. Cost of living crisis, people are spending less, blah, 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 blah. They listed all the reasons that this cosmetics company was essentially going down. The post went viral. They had mass numbers of orders, and it's completely turned their whole business around by just putting out a post that said, it's, the shit has basically hit the fan. You're like, and it massively overturned for them. And I saw a similar thing from someone in the pandemic as well, who put a post out going, this pandemic is, insert swear words, and I've lost all this business, this has gone wrong, that's gone wrong, I'm now struggling to pay my rent, da 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 da. And the comments were like, what do you do? I'll be able to find someone who can use your services. Right. I've looked at your LinkedIn profile. I need you. And she had all these comments of people going, I'll work with you. Actually, I completely need what you do right now. And it was a real like lesson in sometimes honesty pays off, rather than hiding all that kind of stuff and then just putting a post out and going, sorry guys, I've had to close my business. Going a few steps ahead of that and admitting, I'm getting close to the end of, the end of my business. I'm on the brink.
Yeah.
And actually turn things around. So it was really good to see a bit of honesty on social media.
Oh, maybe I should use it.
We could all do that now and again. Just having a bit of a rough week.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, hey, hello, anyone? Anyone out there? Fancies giving me a hand?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I have struggled with this comparison piece. And I think definitely more so since launching my own business. And, you know, it didn't help launching it at the start of the pandemic or just before, for sure. And then dealing with everything that the pandemic presented at the same time. So I definitely struggled with it through that period of time. And those sort of tips around recognizing always that you're only seeing what people want to show you. So it is the most one-dimensional split-second moment of time. That is all it is in a day or a week or a month or a year. I know that really helped me to gain some perspective, and definitely having gratitude for where I'm at, rather than just focusing on what I think they're good at.
Yes.
And undermining myself as a result of it. And I think appreciating that everyone's starting from a different place. I think that was always very helpful for me with that comparison piece. Like, we're not all starting from exactly the same place. You know, we're all different. We've got different backgrounds, different experiences, different things have happened to us, different strengths, different resources. Like, yeah, some people are doing really well, but you know, that's good for them, you know, but you don't know what they've gone through to get there if they don't choose to tell you and give you a bit of that reality check. And I know it was Joe Wicks and his story that always humbles me, when he, you know, really advocates the fact that his story is not as successful as everyone thinks it is. Like, he really plugged his personal training business and the Joe Wicks method, if you like, for 10 years before it became successful.
Before it took off,
but before that, he was walking around flyering people in Richmond and turning up into parks with no one showing up. You know, it's like, just because he looks successful now, because he is, don't disregard how hard he worked to get there and how long it took. He just stuck with it and he did different things and he was passionate about it. But it doesn't mean it just happened yesterday, which I think is always so important. But again, that comes back to Susie's point that, you know, it's totally down to how people choose to tell you and what they choose to tell you. And that's under their control, not yours. So you just have to therefore only control what you can, which is how you interpret it and digest it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's back to having that consciousness, isn't it? Not just taking everything at face value, being more conscious of the real world.
Indeed. So this subject, digital well-being, I mean, I feel like this is a subject that's going to become really, really popular. I think it's just emerging into conversations in the workplace and for individuals as well. But I feel like this is going to really snowball and become quite big in the medium to longer term. So what is the best way for people to get this on the agenda, especially at work? So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, we have got way too many tools that are like digitalized, which focus on productivity, but I can totally relate to some of the things that Sam's talked about here. So what's some of the ways that people can get this on the agenda, and let's get more people talking about it?
Yeah, so I think, you know, the best thing is to have a conversation with your own manager, really. So what I would probably suggest is jotting down every time you've been interrupted by the digital world or any way in which it's holding you back from your work, and just actually taking that to your manager and going, you know, over the course of one day, this is how many chat messages came through and interrupted me. This is how many email notifications I got. This is how many emails I was copied in on that I didn't need to actually know about. You know, this is how many meetings I was invited to that I didn't need to be in just because they were on Zoom or Teams. And it was, you know, and just jotting all that down can be really like eye-opening for managers, rather than just going like, oh, I get interrupted quite a lot by chat. Be like, oh yeah, but we need that too, you know, to have these kind of conversations. Just actually showing them the impact that you think it's having on your role is only going to benefit you, in showing, look, I want to get as much done as I can possibly get done, and these are the interruptions I'm dealing with every day. You know, and also pointing them in direction of things like this podcast episode, and there's videos out there, and you know, anywhere that kind of talks about this, because I think managers, as I said before, are just so focused on how digital transformations made a big positive impact then that they maybe are forgetting about the negative side of it as well. So kind of pointing them in that direction and being a bit of a champion for it, and a steer and leading the way, and then trialing things yourself if you can within your own role. Certainly you can if you are like the three of us are, solopreneurs, things that we can do. But it's, if you've got the autonomy to do the same in your own role, it's things like turn off all notifications. This makes a huge difference to how plugged in we are. If we turn off all notifications, we are not jumping on our inbox, we're not jumping on chats, we're not picking up our phone as much. It's like you said, if your alarm goes off, you're picking up that phone because you've got to check your blood sugar levels, but that alarm has been the trigger to pick up your phone. Now that's a really good reason to have that notification on, but we don't need to know if someone's liked our LinkedIn post, or we don't need to know that the school WhatsApp group is, someone's asking us, did anyone bring home someone's jumper or whatever. We don't need to know that in that instant. So turning those off will stop us picking up our phone, and it will stop that interruption as well. That's just such a huge part of society now and of the workplace, just constantly being interrupted. As I say, if you've got the autonomy to do it in your own workplace, great, turn it all off. If you haven't, just having the conversation and saying, look, this is how often I'm being interrupted by digital notifications. And I think, maybe asking around other people, how do you feel about this? And it'll make a huge difference just opening up the conversation, I think.
God, the turning off notifications one was a game changer for me.
Yeah.
I know I think it was last year or the year before, I turned off notifications for LinkedIn, Instagram, the lot, so that I could never see them on the lock screen, because that's what I found. I actually felt harassed to a certain point, because actually so many of them were just not important, not relevant. I think it really brought my attention to how much you're flooded. I think you said this quite early on, Sam, with advertising and suggestions for things that you were not aware of before, but as the platforms have evolved, become more sophisticated, the algorithms have really started to track you, they now start throwing stuff at you that they think could be of interest. I was getting those sorts of notifications. I was starting to feel like quite exhausted by it all, and so I just turned them all off so that I couldn't see them. And that was just so helpful. It was one of the best things I ever did. And same with WhatsApp groups, like WhatsApp group chats. I mean, you mentioned the school one there. I'm not part of a school chat, but I've got enough friendship groups that I'm part of, and business networking groups. Actually, I've got WhatsApp groups for those. I turn off those so I can't be notified of what's being chatted in the group, because for some of those, there's so many people on them. You don't look at it for like 10 minutes. And it's like 50 messages. I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't even read them. I just get an
overview of what's going on.
I just think, God, if it was that important, someone would just message me and go, Lisa. I'll be like, okay, cool. A bit like I remember.
Exactly.
I remember, like, I used to fail at work. If you got into a whole email chain at work, which can be hugely distracting, I used to glimpse at it and go, oh my God, there's like 60 of us on this. Is it really relevant for everybody? And then I'd look at it and go, yeah, if someone thinks that I need to do something on this, they'll have to email me directly. I'm not getting involved in this.
Too much.
Too much. And I remember thinking that, I mean, I haven't been in the corporate workplace for a couple of years now, but back then, that was pre-pandemic. I used to find that irritating. But I used to just, I suppose make the decision to go, geez, if you think it's really that important for me to look at this, you'll message me. And if you don't, you won't CC me into a message with 50 other people and assume we're all gonna, oh God, that sort of thing.
That's the mistake, isn't it? When there's always someone who replies to all.
And then it carries on.
Yeah. Like, why have you replied to all? Why have you just replied to all? And it goes on and on and on. Anyway,
60 people replied to all. That is an overwhelming day of emails.
That is what we're talking about here, people.
And it happens in businesses, and they just don't think about how incredibly overwhelming and how much it's holding people back from actually just doing their job.
Oh gosh, I do not miss those.
No, I don't miss those.
Be honest. So, we're coming to the end of our conversation today. It's been a really interesting topic to talk to you about, Sam. So, to kind of conclude, what would be some of your top tips for successfully managing both your own and perhaps others' digital well-being?
Yeah, so I've just given the biggest one probably, which is turn off notifications. So
I've
that was a teaser.
One.
Yeah, turn off notifications. It's amazing actually when I say it. I always just assume no one has their notifications on because I can't imagine how awful it would be for me to have mine on. And then people go, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm like, what? You've got them on still?
Yeah.
It's
so freeing.
Yeah, turn off all notifications. So freeing, especially things like if you're working at your laptop, don't have it notifying you every time you get an email. You don't need to do that. Just have times that you check in.
Yes.
And I think time is a really important one. So time blocking things. So for example, I still love the odd scroll on Instagram Reels or TikTok, but my phone has a 20-minute limit for social media. So you can set that up in the screen time on iPhones. You can set groups. So I have a social group that has the social media apps that I have on my phone. And in total, I'm allowed 20 minutes. You can override it, but it's very rare that I do unless I need to for like a business sense, like I'm recording some reels or something. Because actually what it does is it makes you go, oh, you've already spent 20 minutes today just scrolling mindlessly. You don't need to waste any more time on that. So having time limits set up in place, I think on Android it's called digital wellbeing actually. They got ahead with that word when they set up their screen time limit section. So yeah, set your screen limits, time block as well. And I will often set a timer for little tasks that I want to do that are digital, because I know I'll get sucked in if I don't have right, you've got 10 minutes to record and edit a reel. If I don't set myself a 10-minute timer to do that, I could spend hours doing it, because I'll just be like, oh, I'll just go and have a look at a few other reels. I'll get a bit more inspiration. And oh, now I'm on my phone. I'll check my WhatsApp messages. It's like you say, as soon as it's in your hand, you're off on a tangent. So yeah, having timers for digital activity is a really good one as well.
Okay. Well, I'm just jealous you can edit a reel in 10 minutes.
Me too.
Honest.
Well, I don't make them complicated. I just speak to camera for about 20 seconds and then I post it. So there's not much editing involved.
God, you need to teach me the skill for that. You need to teach me for the skill. I can't say anything in 20 seconds. Literally. God, I say everything in about 20 minutes.
That's where you have to think of it as multiple reels. That's the key. That is the key. And I'm the same. I could easily go off on a tangent. But for example, that sentence you said at the start, one of my favorite sayings is, we pick up our phones because we're fearing missing out on something, but by picking them up, we're missing out on something. That was a reel that just went mad. That's all I said in it. And that was it. It was like 11 seconds long. And that's how I focus it. Just one tiny point, get it out there. And it's all to do with time for me. I just can't be bothered I haven't got the time, but I also can't be bothered spending hours to create something that's a 20-second long video. So yeah, time blocking, being really specific with time makes a big difference. That could include as well checking your emails. So it could be that you can actually turn your emails offline. Not many people realize this, but pretty much all email email systems like Outlook and such like, you can go offline. And what's great about that is if you need to go into your emails because you need to do some work from an email that's been sent to you, you can access all your previous emails. You can write out emails and they will sit in your outbox. And then as soon as you go online, all the emails that you've written will be sent. You'll get new emails in, you can sort them all out, go back offline. And that's really good for kind of having set times of day that you check your emails, rather than constantly kind of plugging in and I think emails are such a massive time drain. So going offline with emails really helps as well. And then on a really personal note, I know it's a really big habit for people in the evenings to be like, right, kids are in bed, day's done, I'm going to sit on the sofa, I'm going to watch an episode of whatever it might be on the telly or this new movie I want to watch. They put it on and then they go like this. And they sit there watching the movie or film or whatever TV program while scrolling on their phone, and then look up and go, oh, I ain't got a clue what's happening. So, and that's because we become so used to our hands being busy that it's actually really hard to just sit and watch something and not do something at the same time. So something I do is crochet, and it keeps my hands busy. I absolutely love it. It's learning a new skill. Well, I've been doing it for 8 years now, but actually learning the new skill itself was really rewarding. And every night I will just sit and do a little bit of crochet while I'm watching something, and it keeps my hands busy and I can't scroll on my phone at the same time as crocheting. And then I end up with all these lovely things to give to people as well. So I'm making a baby blanket for my new baby nephew that's going to be born in a few months at the moment. So, it's thinking outside of the box in a way, like, right, okay, so I've got this habit of picking up my phone. What can I do instead? You know, is there an alternative to just scrolling and losing hours of my time to something that offers me no reward back?
And surely that with that last point as well, when you're on your phone and you've got a TV on or whatever, you're just inundating yourself again with content. You know, the noises, the sounds. I actually find it so annoying when people do that. Talk about my husband again. He's terrible for sitting on his phone.
My husband does it too.
Watching a film. Although sometimes it's a godsend because it actually means I get to watch what I want because he doesn't seem that interested. But I actually purposefully forget my phone upstairs.
I really helps. Out of sight, out of mind.
I just leave it upstairs. I'll just go, I don't want it near me. I don't want to see it next to the dinner table, because that's the other thing. Do you have that horrible habit where it comes to dinner and it just sits on the table with you? Oh my God. I've actually got a friend who despises it. She can't cope with it. So actually, she'll literally remove your phone from the table. She's like, it's rude.
That's great.
Yeah, it is good. But yeah, it's something I've started to do in the evenings when we're at home, is just remove it. I leave it upstairs somewhere and just go, there's nothing I need to do on it. And I don't need to know anything. It's 8 o'clock at night. I just want to sit and watch the TV. So I do.
No, that does keep it out of sight. Because
just...
if it's next to you, I always say the problem with mobile phones is the fact that they are mobile.
Yes.
So we are like, you know, taking them around our house with us to different rooms. We're taking them out the door with us. So, you know, we're taking them to doctors' waiting rooms, the playground, wherever. And that's probably one of the biggest issues, because it's kind of like saying to a smoker, or a smoker saying, right, I'm going to stop smoking now, and go, okay, that's fine, but you've got to keep a packet of cigarettes in your pocket all the time. Just don't smoke. You know, it's not going to happen, is it? You know, no. And yet we expect that if we can still have our phone on us all the time, we just won't use it as much. Keeping it out of sight makes a massive difference. I always have mine on my desk as a prop when I'm doing things like this, but actually I keep it when I'm working, I have a spot that's on a mantelpiece the other side of the room where my phone lives. So I have to physically stand up and go to it if I want to use it, but it's still in the room for all the things you blooming need your phone for now, like 2-factor verification and all that kind of thing. But like, that's always people's like, one of their arguments is like, but I've got to use my phone.
Don't even talk to me about 2-factor. Jeez, that is like the bane of my life now.
Oh, it's so frustrating.
Everything has 2-factor. Why?
Even face recognition.
I don't mind
face
that
recognition
so much.
makes it a bit easier.
2-factor authentication is on the most ridiculous things that I'm like, I couldn't care less if someone hacked into that. They're not going to gain anything. Why does it need 2-factor? Honestly, don't even. That could be a whole nother episode where I go.
I was going to say, I feel like that's a whole other
episode. Ranting coming,
Amazing. Well, Sam, I mean, it's been so fascinating talking to you about this topic of digital wellbeing and about how we really take a bit more responsibility, consciousness around creating some healthy habits for ourselves and also for others in the workplace as well, and kind of owning this as a topic of in digital wellbeing. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Sam. It's been so lovely to meet you and such a great conversation.
We are coming to the end of today's episode, where we've been discussing digital wellbeing with our guest, Sam Flynn. Sam's top tips and recommendations from today's episode are: number 1, turn off your notifications on your phone, your email, your WhatsApp chats. Just turn them off and see how amazing that is for you and how that feels. Number 2, activate time limits for your socials. So you can set this up on your phone, whether you have an iPhone or an Android. This is a function that is available to you, which I have to say I've never heard of, but you can activate these. So go and check those out. Number 3, set time limits for digital activity. So literally set a timer if you want to, that will beep in 20-25 minutes. But when you're doing your emails, when you're perhaps creating a reel, as Sam talked about, or going on social media, set yourself a time limit that then reminds you to come off and transition away from that. And number 4, try and keep your hands busy or hide your phone. So, for example, if you are watching TV at night, Try and resist that temptation of getting your phone out and focusing in on that. Put it away, put it in another room so it's not there, you can't see it, but then also do something to occupy your hands. So Sam was talking about how she does crocheting to occupy her hands whilst watching TV. So that's a great top tip. Don't worry if you can't remember all of these top tips. They will be on our Instagram page at the Coaching Cast this week, on our whiteboard of wisdom, which comes out on a Wednesday on our Instagram and follows the episode that's landed the day before. So if you can't remember all of these top tips, check out our Instagram page at the Coaching Cast.
We really hope you enjoyed today and our conversation with Sam and have some new ideas to take away and try for yourselves. If you have any questions, thoughts, or feedback, we'd love to hear from you. You can contact us in 3 ways: on email at hello@thecoachingcast.co.uk, on Instagram at thecoachingcast, and finally, you can contact us through our website, thecoachingcast.co.uk.
Your support helps more than you know. So if you like what you've heard today and would like us to help grow this podcast and join our CBB community, then please leave us a review on the Apple Podcast app. No idea how important these are. Hit subscribe wherever you listen and give us a follow on Instagram, where we post our regular tips and behind the scenes hilarity. Don't forget, you can also watch each episode on our YouTube channel by searching for the Coaching Cast. Finally, we both love music and use it to motivate and energize us. So we like to finish each episode with our personal song recommendation, giving you positivity and energy as you launch into your next meeting. It's my choice this week, and I've chosen an oldie, but one I heard the other day and I was like, oh, I really enjoy this song, and I'd totally forgotten all about it. And I've chosen Joy by Will Young. Yeah. Not heard it for a while, and I heard it on the radio. And I was like, oh my goodness, I love this song. So that's my choice this week.
Cool.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode, where we've been talking to Sam about digital wellbeing. Remember, CBEBs, you've got this. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week.